Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. Thank goodness Ian has jumped on because right now Ben is nothing more than an empty chair, and who the hell knows where Scarpino is. It's a special Tuesday night edition. We really hadn't planned to do Tuesday night. Because we were going to get Thursday in, and then, of course, Friday being the 4th of July, we figured, hey, let's do it Thursday, and we'll see what happens. And then, of course, a little bit of news broke yesterday, and we thought, let's do this sucker on Tuesday. And so that's what we're going to do. And Bobby Bonilla Day. How many more years, Ian, of Bobby Bonilla Day do we have?
We have
35.
Yeah.
Thank
another
you,
decade
Ian.
of Bobby Bonilla years.
It's another decade of Bobby Bonilla. How good is it to be Bobby Bonilla? July 1st, you get $1 million?
$1 million plus. Yeah, it goes up every year too.
Oh, unbelievable. What a great day. Welcome in, Scarps. Welcome in, Ben. So Aaron, who may or may not be watching already, just might not be in the chat yet. You know, he does.
Oh, Burner's here. That's good.
Burner, yes.
Hey,
yes,
Burner, I just wanted
Billy
to dedicate this first beer to you, buddy. My very first beer. Yeah.
But anyway, Aaron does a fantastic job. He does our graphics and videos and stuff. And Ben pointed out that there's Aaron with a very well-timed entrance into the show. Ben, shut the fuck up. Mark is talking about me. That's good, Aaron. Any case, it was also pointed out that and this is before the trade, but it was pointed out that we had a little bit of Pickens in the video, a little bit of Najee in the video. Now, of course, we have a little bit of Minkah in the video. And so like 15 seconds of the video is like not even Steelers anymore. So no pressure, Aaron. But yeah, we got to update that sucker, buddy. Yeah. Maybe new all Omar Khan. I love it.
Why?
I love it. Yeah.
No.
All right. Round robin. You get to answer yes or no to these three questions. We'll start with Scarpino. Now we'll come back and talk. So one word only.
I can follow the rules.
Thank you. Are the Pittsburgh Steelers better now than they were a week ago?
Maybe.
Oh, for God's sakes. Ian, are the Pittsburgh Steelers better than they were a week ago?
No.
Ben, are the Pittsburgh Steelers better than they were a week ago?
They are, but
okay, so for the
it
record,
remains to be seen how much better.
you'll notice who couldn't stick to one word.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that's one yes, one no, one maybe. Okay. All right. Ian, I'll start you with the next question.
Oh, I don't get to explain the first one. I'm going to have
we're
to
gonna come
remember
back to
what I
all
was
these.
thinking. Okay.
No, we're going to come back to all these.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
Second question. Did Minkah Fitzpatrick get a bit of a raw deal?
Yes.
Ben, did Minkah get a bit of a raw deal here?
A little.
Okay. Scarps?
Yes.
Okay. That
Wow,
is
Scarpino hates him. Even the haters said that.
Okay.
I don't hate him.
Wow.
And the last question, Ben, I'll start with you. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers win a postseason game this season?
No.
Scarps?
Nope.
Ian?
No.
Wow. Okay. Unanimous. All right, let's go back
Mark,
to number one.
You didn't answer a single one of these.
No, I did that on purpose. I'm the host. I have that. I have that privilege.
Dick.
Just for the record, I would say I'll take slightly yes and no. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. So, Scarps, you said maybe to the question of whether or not the Steelers are better than they were last week at this time. Give us a little reason why you feel that way.
Yeah. I still haven't. I still don't necessarily know how I feel about these trades. I don't. I feel like we got older. Excuse me one sec. as I cough, need my Robitussin. Feel like we got older. I feel like we added some potential playmakers, but in the process, got older. And I also, but on the other side, I also say maybe because it's not like we gave up draft picks and sort of like screwed the future, because they still have plenty of picks next year to move up.
Yeah.
But I think when you make these moves, you get like it is Twitter this week, Steelers Twitter this week has been insufferable. I've been fighting with losers all day.
Why do you respond?
It is funny because I've actually had really good experiences lately, and then like today,
it all came to a head.
Every jerk off had to make it personal. But I mean, I don't want to steal Ian's thunder, but Ian brought up a good point. Like 4 years ago, I would have loved this. I would have loved all of this. I'd be like, holy shit, Aaron Rodgers still got stuff left in the tank. Jalen Ramsey's an all pro. Jonnu Smith is 4 years ago he wasn't that good. And nobody wants to talk about that when he was in New England. But I don't know. I can't say definitively if they're better or they're worse.
Okay.
I just don't have a lot of hopes for this season.
Totally fair. Ian, you were a no.
I was
Hater.
a no. And I was a no because they traded a 28-year-old free safety with 2 years left on his contract for a cornerback in his 30s and a tight end who's about to turn 30. They got older, as Ryan mentioned, and I said on the show a few weeks ago that I was concerned about the depth at cornerback, and this does help address that. But now I'm looking at the depth at safety, and I'm like, well, who's going to play free safety? Like Juan Thornhill, who's been injured like most of the last 2 seasons, and free safety is that one position where before Minkah was here, it was bad. We were getting beat for long plays often. And even though Minkah didn't have the splash plays the last few years, there was quite a bit of, touchdown saving plays that he did make.
Yeah.
So, those
and
long plays,
block.
those long plays turning into touchdowns are worrisome. And by all accounts, Minkah was a pretty good presence in the locker room. I mean, there was a lot of, stories Brooke Pryor had about him putting the, circle of pylons around the Steelers logo so people would stop walking on it, that he cared about this franchise. And, I don't know if a journeyman like Jalen Ramsey, who by all accounts gets in fights with everybody, including DK Metcalf, who's our, highest paid Steeler in history now. And Jonnu Smith, I don't know. And at best, maybe we get 1 or 2 years out of Ramsey. And I think they didn't want to re-sign Minkah after this contract anyway. So when a deal came available, they were willing to take it. But I don't see this. Maybe it helps us in the short term, but I don't see this as a deal that helps us in the long term, which is why I said no. This deal did nothing to help us long term.
And I do want to come back to that short-term, long-term stuff, because I think that's a big part of this discussion. Ben, you said that yes, you think this team is better than they were a week ago.
They're a little better, a little better on offense.
Okay,
I think that you need to view this trade as 2 trades. They traded Minkah straight up for Jalen Ramsey, which I am surprised as anyone they did this. And they traded basically a pick swap for Jonnu Smith. They traded a 5th round pick, which they had an extra 5th from the George Pickens trade. So they basically gave up nothing to take Jonnu Smith and a 7 back. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Losing a guy who prior to the last couple of years was really good, but seems to be in decline even at 28. and picking up a guy who's also, in my mind, a little bit in decline at corner in Jalen Ramsey. You have to kind of go, well, what are you guys doing here? You're just trying to see what you can get, what you can make happen. But the value at corner, the value at the position is just much higher. And, I think that's the thing that people are overlooking. Free safeties are a wonderful thing to have when you have a good one, but he's got to play really, really well to make a difference. And Minkah just hasn't done that for the last couple of years. So he kind of made himself expendable. As far as Smith goes, I don't see the dude coming in and playing wide receiver too. Yes, he had 88 receptions last year and 8 touchdowns. But he was Tua's outlet, He was, oh shit. Oh, here you go. Catch the ball and go.
Hill and Waddle on the other,
yeah. It's kind of his outlet receiver. So he got a ton of targets, caught a ton of balls, had a pretty nice year. He can split out and play the Y. You can line him up. You can line him up as a wide receiver technically if you want to.
Yeah.
You can play him at fullback. Arthur Smith loves him. One of the things Arthur Smith said last year at the end of the season was, well, I couldn't really run all the stuff I wanted to. He doesn't really have any fucking excuses anymore. Okay.
So I don't disagree with that.
They've got Jonnu Smith for 2 years as opposed to 1, which is a little better. He's a little younger. I see Jalen Ramsey as probably, looking at his contract, the dude's a 1-year rental.
Yeah, they do have an out after this year, I believe.
His guaranteed money is paid out this year. The Dolphins are picking up $7 million of it.
Okay.
So yes, the Steelers did give him a raise, $1.5 million raise. But the Dolphins are paying 7 of it themselves. I don't know how they're working that out, somewhere in the total comp. But the dude's going to make $26 million this year to play corner. Approximately, I don't remember who it was in the chat that corrected me and said, no, he played a lot in slot. He did. He played a fair amount in slot. Just under 25% of his snaps came at slot in Miami. So he was kind of all over the place. And I think that's what they're seeing here is kind of a Swiss Army knife defensive back who can play some safety. He can play slot. He can play outside. So you can put him in the backfield and confuse quarterbacks because they're not necessarily going to know who he's covering. That's the general idea. I mean, it's disguised coverage based upon a player, not the scheme.
So I
think they're slightly better. I don't think they're a lot better, but I just want to make one point and I'll stop.
Okay.
The Steelers are in the middle of a rebuild. Okay. And Scarpino's been talking about this for a while. They're in the middle of a fucking rebuild. And this is what it looks like in Pittsburgh. They aren't going to be a great team. They're trying to win now, but not sacrifice the future. So they're not going to give up picks. They're not going to go all in. I mean, if they traded for some fucking big name wide receiver tomorrow and they gave up a second round pick, I'd be like, oh shit, they really are. They do want to win the Super Bowl this year.
Right.
That's not happening. They got rid of George Pickens. They got rid of Minkah. They didn't trade a draft pick for Jalen Ramsey. They traded Minkah away because they see him as a guy who has diminishing talent and who has a very big contract.
So, Ian, on the second question, I asked, is Minkah, was he a bit of a scapegoat here? Or did he get a raw deal, if you will? And you thought yes. Scarps thought yes. Why do you feel that way?
I think we've talked a lot on the show the last couple of years about Minkah being played out of position. 2 years ago, he was playing strong safety when he's not a strong safety at all. He's a free safety. So starting with that, I think Terrell Austin's whole tenure as defensive coordinator was bad for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think if you put Minkah back in a system with a defensive coordinator that can maximize his strengths instead of trying to fit him into a box of a position that he once played, like Austin was trying to do, then I think he could be back to an all-pro level. So I do think he got a bit of a raw deal, and it's really easy to blame a safety when things go wrong in front of them, because
Yes.
they are kind of the last line of defense. So I do think some things were on Minkah. And let's go back to the playoff game last year against Baltimore. The scheme was terrible. The scheme in that game was for, on the read option plays, for the outside linebacker to crash on Derrick Henry, and the fill coming in behind was on Minkah to stop Lamar. Now, having your free safety who's playing 25 yards off the ball be the fill guy on the read option to try and stop Lamar, that's a horrible idea, because Lamar's already up to full speed by the time Minkah even gets there. So there was a lot of running plays there where it was pretty clear watching it that the outside linebacker was keyed on Henry. Didn't matter if Lamar pulled the ball, he was going after Henry, and Minkah was supposed to fill. Now, that's not necessarily Minkah's fault that was a bad scheme, but nevertheless, there were plays that were made by Lamar that he was Minkah's guy. So that is, some of it's a fair criticism, some of it is a bad scheme, and some of it is that, I think Minkah didn't play up to the standards we came to expect, right? After we traded him, he had 3 All-Pro years in 4 seasons. So we expected a lot out of him when we signed him to that contract that made him one of the highest paid safeties in the league. And he did not produce over the last few years to that level of expectation. So some of it is deserved, but I think some of it is the scheme change.
I to Berner's point in the chat, is it diminishing talent or not being utilized properly? I think we're going to find that out. If he has a really, really good year, then I think we find that out to an extent. Scarps, you have been a big Minkah, shall we say detractor? But you did, when I asked this question, you did say, he is, kind of a scapegoat a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to collect all these thoughts. I have been critical of him because he has not made splash plays over the past couple years, and as Ian talked about earlier, he had to move into a box safety role because our fucking guys couldn't tackle, and he led the team in tackles, and I thought he did a decent job of that. And then last year, he's playing that center field role. We were told he was going to get to play Minkah ball and all that stuff, and he was 40 yards off the line. So even with my criticism, I still said, hey, I understand that he's doing a job or doing what he's told. But every time I said that last year, I would get shit on Twitter all the time. They'd be like, that's not his job to make splash. Those same people that said that this week when he got traded were like, he hasn't made a fucking play anyway in 2 years. So it's like, make up your mind. So he, and then getting back to him as a Steeler, he didn't say much. I don't necessarily think he was a media darling. I just don't think he wanted to talk. But
always struck me as a quiet guy.
But I'm never gonna. I'm not gonna question his loyalty to the Steelers and his teammates. And I'll say this right now: the dude wasn't a punk. Like, the guy was he was a Steeler. Like, he really was a Steeler.
Yeah.
Do I wish he made more plays? Absolutely. But like, I believe he was a Steeler, true Steeler at heart. Now, of course, Steelers Twitter was like, "Oh, remember last year when Cam said 10 guys are doing their job and the 11 guy wasn't? Oh, they were talking about Minkah.
Yeah,
you're full of shit. That's bullshit." Because I'm going to tell you this right now, Cam Hayward would never call somebody out like that publicly if they really meant something to him. And second of all, he was on something today where he was like bummed out that like they traded Minkah. And Minkah a couple years ago was the one who said, we got too many guys on the team that think because they put the Steelers uniform on, that it's automatically going to be wins. But the balls of these fans this week, they're such hypocrites. And that's what, here we go. Look at the camera.
Let it rip, baby.
That's what pisses me off about Steelers fans. I don't really even have a problem with the team or the coaches or the players. I have a problem with how fans act. They're such hypocrites. They'll sit there and give me shit because I critique Minkah and be like, that's not his job. His job isn't to make splash. And then this whole week they're like, fuck him. He sucks anyway. Bring on an older player who's just as loud and obnoxious.
And
You thought if you thought George Pickens was an asshole,
right,
just wait.
just wait. No, and to Philip's point, he's correct. I mean, Hayward was no doubt talking about Cam Sutton.
They pointed at Cam Sutton on every breakdown. Did Minkah make mistakes? Absolutely.
Every guy on that defense made mistakes.
Everybody on that team. But I'm telling you right now, Cam Sutton was the problem.
Yeah, no doubt. Ben, you when I asked about Minkah being a bit of a scapegoat, well, forgive me. What was your reply to that?
I said a little
bit. Yeah.
I think the people that are drawing the conclusion that Minkah was out of position don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'll just say it straight up, just like that. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. If you honestly believe that, you don't know ball. I hate that. I hate that phrase, but I'll be honest. You don't fucking know what you're talking about. The guy was not out of position. Conversely, what he was supposed to be doing back there was taking care of communication in the defensive backfield. That is his role. That is his job. Making sure all the guys are on the same page all the time. Okay. And there were lots of instances where there was miscommunication. Lots.
Yep.
So he has to take some of that responsibility on. He has to own some of it because that's his role. All right.
Yep.
So do I think that he's getting too much heat? Fuck yes, he is. Do I think he deserves none? No, I do not. I do not. And on top of that, you expect to see a little more out of the guy. You expected more splash plays, more picks, more something. This didn't happen.
I'm not really going to address the third question I asked you guys, which all of you, when I asked if this means the team will win a playoff game, you all said no. And believe me, there's going to be plenty of shows ahead this summer and during the season in which we'll ask that question again. What I want to get into a little bit now, Ian, I'll go to you first. Who the hell is going to play free safety?
That's
player to be named, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it a player to be named? Do they think Jalen Ramsey can be the full-time guy there?
I think a rumor.
Is there somebody on the roster they think
just a rumor?
Yeah. So Ian, what do you think?
So it's actually my turn. It's not Ben's turn.
No, it's your turn.
Okay. So I think if we had to go out and play a game right now on July 1st, it would probably be Jalen Ramsey playing free safety.
Okay.
But I think they do enough mix and match that, I mean, you could slide one Thornhill in there. You could move Ramsey either into the slot or move him around the defense. That they could, if they want to, if they're in a nickel set with 5 defensive backs or a dime look, whatever, bring in Eccles and Ramsey and Thornhill and whatever. They could move guys around. And that said, safeties in the free agent market have been really weird the last couple years. Like, there's been really good safeties like Von Bell, like Justin Simmons, that didn't get contracts until late in the summer. And there's still a couple guys out there. Actually, Simmons is one of them.
Simmons is one of them
that are unsigned and could potentially, be available for the Steelers right now as we, look to head into training camp in a few weeks. And teams have not signed safeties to like big number contracts. Like, you could go out and get a fairly decent safety, probably on a 1-year deal right now for not a whole lot of money.
So, and who was it we were talking about earlier today? Blackman?
So Julian Blackman's been a popular name. He played for the Colts last year, played like 94% of their snaps, played in 16 games. He was a true free safety. Justin Simmons is getting a little bit older, but played for the Falcons last year. He played over 90% of their snaps. So
he's 32. I didn't realize that.
Who is?
Simmons is 32. I didn't realize he was that old.
God, where does time go? Seems like he just came into the league.
Yeah. I mean, if the Steelers seem to like their old guys, so like Jordan Poyer's still out there. He was with the Dolphins last year, and there's a couple other really old guys. Rodney McLeod, he's in his mid-30s.
I think they should look at Jordan Whitehead.
Whitehead was in a car crash.
He missed
he missed the Bucs last game because he was in a car crash and was injured, like back in January. That's why he wasn't signed yet, because he was still recovering.
How bad was it?
I'm not sure. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That kid's in his late 20s. That's too bad.
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
but
he's from Pittsburgh. I mean, he's a Whitfield kid. I would love them to sign him.
The overarching point, though, is what you were making before, is that they're pretty affordable. You know, you can get a pretty good free safety for $3.5, $4 million a year at this point.
Yeah.
Scarps, what do you think in terms of Ramsey? You alluded to some of his antics. We know he has a past with DK Metcalf, who they are now teammates and will be squaring up against each other, presumably, in some drills. A lot of shit talking going to be coming. What's your take on this guy, man? You think he's paying a guy $26 million? Is he going to play slot? To Ben's point, they're going to move him around a lot.
You know, I joked. I can't remember. It was probably like a month ago now when like these rumors first started that I was like, I think he might play in the slot, and then I think he might play free safety. I can't remember. Somebody in the chat was kind of like, "What? What are you talking about?" And now, like my nightmare's coming true. I still think he's a good player, and I'm not. I don't want to take that away from him. I think he's a good player. Yeah. I think he's a good player, but as we talked about earlier, he's not a Steeler. He's not. And like I can't believe I'm going to call him a job hopper, but like I'm serious. He wanted out of Jacksonville. He wanted out of
not wrong.
He wanted out of LA, even though he won a Super Bowl, and then he wanted out of Miami. And the Steelers are in a decent spot because, like you said, they could like he's a 1-year rental, right? So they don't have to, but like if let's just say he has a good season this year, he's gonna want a bunch of money. Like, let's not be stupid. Like,
no, he's signed through 28. I mean, he's signed through 28 at good money, Scarps.
Isn't there some void years in there?
Yeah, there's void years in there to extend his deal, but
so we could get out of it if we want. But
at the end of the year,
he could also be on the books though for a good chunk of change.
Yeah, and next
year
he
would want some sort of.
No, next year his total comp is 25, and 27 it's 25 again. And 28 is 36. Nobody's paying him. Nobody's paying him $36 million in 2028. That's a fluff year that was added to make it look like he was making, his average was higher than it actually was. Then there are 3 void years on it to try and spread out his cap hits for, his last.
This is why we have contract experts.
Yeah, finish your thoughts, Scarps.
But I just like that's great, and he had a great hype video where he was signing, and like that's cool and all, but like, and I mean this, DK Metcalf is not a Pittsburgh Steeler. He is, but he's not.
Right.
Jonnu Smith is not.
He wants to
Ramsey. Yeah. DK does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like DK. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like all these guys, they're not Steelers. Like they're not yet. Aaron Rodgers is not a Steeler. Like, you fucking kidding me?
Okay.
Like that's I mean that's great, but like we're not like I guess my point.
Look at Deshaun Elliott last year. He rolls in,
and
he wasn't a Steeler either, but then he played, and you're like, no, that dude is a Steeler. He is.
But how many? And
he loves playing here.
And you know who else was that they let go? Landon Roberts. So like I feel like, and what do they all have in common?
That sucked.
What do those guys have in common? They weren't drafted by the Steelers. So if we want to get back to, did Kevin Colbert suck at drafting? Did Mike Tomlin suck at drafting? Did they not know how to draft? It looks to me like they don't draft and develop guys much anymore. You got TJ, that's great. You got a couple other guys, but like I think the difference between now and back then is that they're picking guys via trade,
but
free agency.
Yeah. Is this?
But Kevin's last 5 drafts were fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Kevin's last 5 drafts were terrible, and you can't say that yet about Omar's drafts because they're too recent. I'm not saying they were good drafts.
This is Omar's third year.
You
correct?
Can't evaluate them yet.
Yeah.
That's right. That's fine, but I also think that
if you're gonna, but it's his second draft.
No, it's his third draft.
He's only had 2 draft classes.
No, this is third. Omar picked Broderick Jones, Troy Fatanu, and Derek Harmon. Omar's done 3 drafts.
23,
'cause
24,
Colbert did
23, 24, and
pick it.
25. You're right. This is 3.
Yeah, Colbert
Yeah.
did
So
pick it.
after
Yeah.
this season, we can evaluate 23. You're right. I stand corrected.
Ian,
That said,
you-
can I one other thought on the Omar Khan thing? I was looking at it today. We only have like 15
Yeah.
guys on the roster that are left from the team that Omar Khan took over.
Mhm.
And some of those guys aren't going to make the team this year because that's counting like Isaiah Loudermilk, who's probably not going to make the team, and a couple Mark Robinson, who might not make the team. But yeah, we're pretty. He's turned over like literally the entire offensive line, the entire wide receiver core. And some of those were guys that probably should have left and brought in some. I mean, Zach Frazier was a good pick. Isaac Seumalo was a good free agent acquisition. James Daniels was a good acquisition. So, some of them I can't really complain about,
Mhm.
The changes that Omar Khan has made,
Justin's
but he
right.
has.
Justin's absolutely
Yeah.
right in the chat. He says Broderick Jones is the most important thing this year. If he's a flop, then it's way worse than we think. He's right. I will go into this year totally believing that the success of this team is going to be on the offensive line. And
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So
So
both lines. I would say.
Yes,
but
yes. I was
Go on.
oversimplifying it, but yes.
Yeah.
Ian, is the fact that Omar Khan has really turned over this roster, do you believe that to be more Omar Khan, or is that more Mike Tomlin?
well, I think on some extent it's that Kevin Colbert left him with a really bad roster. We talked about Colbert's last drafts not working out very
Yes.
well. So some of it's that he took over a bad roster. But the problem I have right now, sitting here July 1st, 2025, I don't see the long-term vision for this team. He's turned over a lot of the roster,
Right.
but right now what we've backfilled with is old guys on 1-year contracts, basically. A couple guys on 2-year deals, but other than trading for DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were 1-year deals. Aaron Rodgers was a 1-year deal. I think I called us, the new Indianapolis Colts a few podcasts ago. And it's just I know we're kind of waiting on drafting a quarterback or whatever. We knew it wasn't going to happen this year.
Mm-hmm.
But even at the other positions, right, I'm not seeing what the long-term vision is. It feels like a bunch of stopgaps until something happens, but I don't know what that something is, because even at defensive back, right, they drafted Joey Porter Jr. and signed Slay to a 1-year deal, traded for Ramsey, which, as Ben said, is essentially a 1-year contract. So I don't know what the vision is, right? If you you need to make improvements at cornerback, go out and sign one of the big name free agent guys. Yes, it's going to cost you more money, but maybe Omar Khan doesn't always have to get the best deal. Maybe we have to get like the best players if we want to contend.
Well, so and I know some people have mentioned this in the chat, and I think
I don't
just real
think they're
quick,
trying
I'll
to
shut
contend
up.
though.
Well,
That's
I'm
fair.
just going to say this, and then I'll give it right back to you guys. This is one of the few trades I'm struggling to decide if I like it or not. It's 24 plus hours old, and
I get that.
I'm still wrestling with whether or not I like it, and I look at it like, well, geez, Ramsey can do this and this. I like Jonnu Smith, and then but what about Minkah? And then I just keep going all over the place. Now, from a financial standpoint, I maybe see it a little bit better in some ways, but I don't have any problem admitting I'm usually a little more decisive on these, and this one I'm just not. I'm struggling on it, but Ben, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
To Ian's point, to Ian's point about I don't think they're trying to contend. They're not. They're not trying to contend. What they are very literally trying to do is patch holes without giving anything up for the future. It is clear as day that is their strategy. Well, we'll try and get better and win some games this year, but we don't want to give anything up for the future. We're not gonna mortgage. So when he goes out and he goes shopping, he's buying low, he's trading low, he's lowballing offers on trades. I mean, getting Jonnu Smith for a fucking pick swap? Come on. The dude was a Pro Bowler last year. He was the Pro Bowler in the AFC last year at tight end, and they got him for a pick swap.
Yeah, no, I think
fifth
Smith
for a seventh, and the fifth was an extra fifth.
Yeah, yeah. The hamsters running Ben's internet tonight need a Gatorade or something. They're slowing down a little bit or something.
God damn it!
I know, sons of bitches. Scarps, you know, I'm not gonna go too far down this rabbit hole because we have lots of private conversations among ourselves and things, but I'll just say this: you have not always been the biggest fan of Omar Khan as the general manager. What is your number one reason why you feel that way, if you can pinpoint?
He's not a football guy. He's not a football guy, and as Casey will touch on a little bit later. And even though Omar isn't a football guy, I'm willing to give him a chance because he's been with the Steelers for a very long time. He worked his way up. I'm not saying he's not deserving of the role, but as I've continually said, I want to give him some time. I think it's too early to judge his tenure one way or the other.
I agree.
My problem with it, and in case we'll talk about this later, is that these fans have such recency bias that they think Kevin Colbert was just some scrub. And obviously, I worked with both Kevin and Omar.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely much closer with Kevin. I'm not going to deny that. Kevin absolutely did not draft great.
Yeah.
Later on in his career, but Kevin's resume is Hall of Fame potential. And I would say that the thing about it is that everything Omar does right now, Omar takes a shit and everyone's like, "Oh my God, so amazing." Like it's just absolutely unbelievable. And yet they have to down Kevin to put, oh Jesus Christ. What the
mustache off the top rope.
What? Omar's from Honduras.
Yeah, Omar's Catholic.
Yeah, anyway, I think Honduras. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
He's from New Orleans.
Yeah, he is, but he's also Honduran. But whatever. Anyway, but there's this, and maybe it's just social media, but like it's just that, like that's. I don't even have a problem with Omar. I have a problem with how fans treat Omar and act like Omar has done something when he hasn't.
Hater.
Well, it's about getting the hot take. It's about being able to say, I was all in with this guy from day one, or I hated him from day one, so that when it breaks one way or the other, you can be that person that says, see, I told you.
See, that's the way I was with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sorry, not really.
I do want to go back to Jonnu Smith a little bit. I think it was Burner that asked the question, more receptions next year, Jonnu Smith or Pat Freiermuth?
Hard call, honestly.
That it might be a hard call. I think a lot of people are just going to automatically say, oh, well, Jonnu Smith, because he had 88 last year.
I'm going to go with Michael Pruitt.
Who's not on the roster. Sure.
Connor
isn't?
No, he's not.
How nervous is Connor Hayward right now?
Connor Hayward's gone, in my opinion. I mean, are you going to carry 4 tight ends?
Well,
he's a fullback, Ben.
Obviously,
Danny
loves him.
He's a fullback, yeah.
Danny loves him, so Danny usually gets those 2-3 guys, right?
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah,
I just don't. I think he's gone. I think he should look at his options. That's me. Maybe he'll make the team somehow, some way.
Right.
But he's not going to play much.
No. I mean, Smith, Muth, Washington. I don't know.
I mean, Washington is your number 3 now. Freiermuth makes $12 million a year. Smith makes $12 million a year. Who's number 1? I don't know. Both of those guys, I think that Freiermuth may be a better inline tight end than Smith is, but Smith is a better offensive player than Freiermuth is. A guy with the ball in his hands. He's better with the ball in his hands. So, and if you just want to talk about the best guy with, inline blocker, it's definitely Washington. So,
right.
I think you're going to see a lot of 12, maybe even some 13, with all 3 of those tight ends out there. And you're going to be going, whoa, what the fuck? What are they doing here? This might be a run play. And then again, it may very well not be.
Yeah, Justin's point about Parham going down, I believe he had an Achilles. He's lost for the season. So that makes that opportunity for him a little easier.
Parham went down, but I just don't see him keeping 4 tight ends. I'd be surprised. Even though, yes, technically Hayward can play fullback, but he's just too small to do it. I mean, he's really an H-back in an offense that doesn't feature an H-back.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
And they have a true fullback on their training camp roster. And on top of that, Jonnu Smith.
A lot of people that like that kid too.
Jonnu Smith can play fullback. Yeah. They've got a true fullback. If the fullback they brought in can play teams,
apparently he made a living doing that. He was mostly at Ole Miss and then transferred to South Alabama his final season, and a little more in your traditional mold, and we'll see. And
like Rosie Nix, who was a converted linebacker.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, Rosie was fun, no doubt about that. Anything else on the trade, guys?
Yeah, well, bigger picture too.
Yeah,
just because we traded Minkah back to Miami does not mean that it wasn't worth trading away a first-round pick to get him to begin with. So I just want to talk about this. Yes, hear me out here. We traded away a first-round pick in the 2020 draft.
Okay.
Since we made that trade, Minkah made 3 All-Pros. No one from the 2020 draft has made more than 2 All-Pros, and that's Justin Jefferson and Tristan Wirfs. So only 2 guys from that entire draft class made multiple All-Pros, and Minkah made more All-Pro teams than them in the time since that trade was made. So if you tell me, hey, you're going to get a guy who makes multiple All-Pros, and maybe you trade him away in a few years, maybe you keep him a little longer. Like, to me, getting 3 All-Pros out of a first-round pick is absolutely worth it.
All right.
Ben?
Hey.
Sounds like Ben has a retort?
No, I think that's initially I did. I was like, wait, you had a guy for a handful of years and you burned a first-round pick on him. If I burn a first-round pick on somebody, I want him for 10 years minimum.
Well, let's compare him to the first-round picks around him, though, right? Like, compare him to Najee and Pickett.
Hang on, just a little bit more perspective on that point. Yeah. They did get value for him when they traded him away. They didn't just piss that away. So you have to look at the fact that now that first-round pick was spent on Minkah Fitzpatrick, now Jalen Ramsey, because that's basically what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Now, if Ramsey has an impact season, will they bring him back and pay him $25 million next year? I don't know. I don't, Vinny, I don't want Thornhill at free safety at all. I thought as a third safety, Thornhill was fine. We were talking about safeties before, and I never got this point out. I think he would be fine in the box, especially as a third safety in that alignment. As a free full-time, I'm not at all comfortable with that.
No, I would agree.
Just no.
Ian, back to your point for a minute about, the trading in Minkah. I was thinking about the fact that, and granted, if these things I'm about to mention had happened, maybe we're not trading him. But maybe we had won a division, maybe we had won a playoff game, then it becomes super easy to say that he was worth it. And I'm not blaming him for the fact that they didn't win a division during that time or that they didn't win a playoff game during his time. I'm not blaming him at all. He's part of the team. It's, but I'm just kind of like rolling that around in my head. Like, would things have been different in their perception of him had they been slightly more successful as a team in terms of the value, that you're talking about? I don't know. I'm just throwing some thoughts in my head out there. I think
the Steelers are going to finish second in the division this year and go to the playoffs and lose. And I do. I like the Bengals' talent, but their offensive line is abysmal, and their defense might be worse. So
yeah, they cannot win every game 45-40.
Yeah.
They just can't.
Exactly.
They can't.
Yeah. I mean, they'll try, and you might win some for a while. We've seen that before.
Yeah, they're going to score a lot of points, but they're going to give a shit ton of points up. And if another team gets a lead on them and just runs the ball and grinds the clock, they're fucked.
Yeah. No argument there. Obviously, later in the day yesterday, TJ Watt's name popped up via Adam Schefter, Brooke Pryor, both of ESPN, suggesting that Watt had a few teams interested in trading for his services. Now, I think most of us probably immediately thought of his agent, was the one putting that out there. But I was kind of back and forth after this trade broke with Craig, who was on the show every once in a while, and he brought up the point to me that trading Minkah at the age of 28, because that next year he'll have 1 year left on his deal, typically when they like to do things, right? Watt's going to be 31 in October. Would you apply that same principle to him? And my argument was, I thought Watt's numbers were a little bit better last year. I think because he finished kind of weak that we forget that, but he still had a pretty good season. I mean, there's a lot of players and teams that would love.
He had a good season.
11 and a half sacks and the fumble forced. And I mean,
I think that a lot of teams are going to look at the way that offense is attacked Watt,
yes,
and the fact that the Steelers didn't really do anything to counter that, and go, what the fuck? You've got this guy with all these tools, and why aren't you putting him in a position to have more of an effect? At least that's what I was thinking all goddamn season.
Yeah, Aaron, what would you trade Watt for? It's not going to happen. Now, I will say this, and I'll credit Brooke Pryor because I'm pretty sure she's the one that said this. There used to be a time when you could pretty much predict what the Steelers front office was going to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That time is gone. That you can't predict. Did any of us really see this move yesterday coming? You might have seen something for Jonnu Smith. You may have even seen something coming for Jalen Ramsey, but I don't think any of us this year thought they were going to deal Minkah Fitzpatrick. So to her point, I see exactly what they're saying. But I just don't see.
I don't think that Minkah was untouchable after 2 down years. I think, there was a time when that definitely would not have happened, but after last season, no, because they gave him the freedom to freelance last year. They put him in a position where he could do more, where he could make those splash plays, and he still didn't do it. And on top of that, we had the aforementioned communication issues, which is it's his responsibility to take care of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any other comments on those items, gentlemen? I'm going to read something to you.
Just one thing real quickly. I got some perspective today on the whole thing with TJ Watt, and
okay,
I'll just go ahead and share it. It would appear that TJ's representatives would prefer to do a short-term deal because, as you mentioned before, he is 31.
Yeah,
they want to do a 3-year deal, including this year.
Oh,
So basically, they want a new contract. They want to do a 3-year deal. And he also wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, which would be $40.5 million. That number has already been accepted by the Steelers. They're like, yeah, well, they basically have accepted the reality of the fact that this is what the rate is now, and they're going to have to pay that. And as I talked to you guys about before, $40 million now is a lower percentage of the cap than $28 million was the last time they did his deal.
Yep.
So they've already accepted that reality, and they, agreed, but they want to do a longer-term deal. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get if it was like they wanted to do a 5-year deal, including this year, or a 5-year extension. But they need to do a 5-year deal for cap purposes. Okay. And as an agent, I don't get this, but an agent will typically counter with, well, then add some void years if that's what you need to do. But we want a short-term deal. The reason he wants a short-term deal is he wants to hit free agency again one more time before he retires.
Yep.
Or at least have the option.
Well, you wonder if he doesn't want to finish his career in Green Bay too.
Green Bay.
Well, he's from there.
Oh, all right, whatever.
His brother always talked about wanting that opportunity and didn't have it.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
That's the holdup. I thought it was guaranteed money. Apparently, that's not the case. It's term.
Interesting.
I would imagine guaranteed money is some of it, though. Because...
sure, it is. I'm sure that if the Steelers want a 5-year deal, then the agent's going, okay, then I want 3 years fully guaranteed, which is $120 million, maybe 120 plus, and the Steelers are going, no. We're willing to go 90 million guaranteed because that's what's his nuts in Cleveland got.
Garrett.
Yeah, the fuck face.
We've had some drinks.
Yeah.
By the way, don't forget you can get the brand new We've Had Some Drinks SCB Steelers Podcast T-shirt at Custom Tees, DCL4L CustomTees.com. Just click on Steel City Blitz and you can grab that shirt there. I know Mr. Berner's already ordered one, so looking forward to seeing a few of those. And check it out when you get a chance. I'm with most of you. I think it's a matter of time. But Scarps, you said several weeks ago you think this Watt thing is going to go pretty far into camp, and I didn't really agree with you at first. I'm coming around to that. Starting to come around to that.
Yeah, I told Berner earlier. I think this might. This is just whatever. This might be he might not sign till week 1.
Mm-hmm.
And based on what Ben just said, I don't know what the right call is, but
I don't either.
And I don't know what the CBA language requires, but like the Steelers have to spend a certain amount of money, and I don't know all the figures and all that stuff, but
they're well above the floor. That's not really a problem.
I think it's more than that though. I think it's that there's see Bill. I don't even know Jerry.
Bill's
said
an
that,
incredibly smart guy. I
don't even know Jerry said that, but I agree. I think this is going to be like the Nick Bosa situation a couple years ago, where Nick Bosa didn't sign till week 1. He still played week 1 against us, and he had an impact on the game.
Yeah,
because Kenny Pickett is absolute garbage. Sorry, you know what? Who gives a fuck? The guy sucks. Whatever, dude. Honestly, the best thing that could happen to the Steelers this year is that Kenny Pickett plays them twice. Like, I'm just like
it would be good.
Like the worst thing that could happen is if Joe Flacco plays them twice, because he's probably going to win one of them.
Right, at least.
So, and I've said that this whole time. I don't know if I'd trade TJ. I don't know if I'd sign him. It's just such a weird thing. But like, and I said this today, and I mean this, is that Anytime a player on another team requests a trade, Steelers fans say, what do they say? Oh, he's selfish. He's not a team player. He's just he's just trying to get a bag. They continually bring up the Myles Garrett, and which was stupid of him to do. It was stupid of him to put that on his social media and formally request a trade.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he got what he wanted. But if TJ would do that, or if TJ sits out or holds in, Steelers fans are going to be like, oh, no, he just wants to win. He's misunderstood. Just like Pickens and just like this guy and that guy. That's bullshit. Because when I bring up Hines Ward was the ultimate team player, everybody's always like, oh, well, he had a hold in.
He held out. No, dude, he held out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he held out, he held in, he held there, he held everywhere. The point being,
Hines Ward didn't hold.
Yeah,
he didn't hold.
But the point being is that like nobody will ever say a goddamn bad word about TJ, and if he's being selfish or not. I mean, for fuck's sake, like his brother has said how many times this offseason has his brother been like, well, they should have extended him last offseason. It's like, JJ, nobody gives a shit, dude.
No shit, JJ.
Like how many playoff games did you win?
Yeah. I mean, look,
a couple more than your brother. But
JJ's not wrong, but playing
no, he's not.
But
he's
playing
not wrong.
But playing his brother's mouthpiece in the media isn't cool.
No.
Okay, leave it the fuck alone.
I got no problem if he says it one time, but quit going.
I agree
back
with you.
And
He said it once, but he said it
Right.
over and
Right.
over and
yes,
over.
he's done it like 4 times. Literally, he went to fucking dinner the other night, right? He's at the Sizzler, and the waiter comes over and says, "May I take your order?" And JJ Watt's just like, "Steelers should have extended TJ last offseason." And the waiter,
Aaron likes Mongolian barbecue.
JJ's at the hibachi. JJ's at the hibachi and is like, it looks at the fucking guy flipping the shit and says, they should have extended TJ last offseason. And the guy picks up a shrimp and tosses it right at JJ Watt's face.
It's becoming like, and I'm sorry for anybody that's listening and might be vegan. It's becoming like the stereotype about vegans who offer up the fact that they're vegan to somebody who didn't even fucking ask. All right.
Yeah, there is some truth to that.
Yeah, I'm doing keto.
Yeah, I'm
keto.
vegan. That's neat. I didn't fucking ask. I don't care.
No one cares.
Neat. Good for you. Don't care.
Yeah. Swell.
Enjoy your fucking seaweed.
I'm doing keto.
I'd like to note at the 56-minute mark, things went off the rails.
It's longer than we usually make it.
It is, isn't it? Yeah,
that's what she said. Hey.
We were good. You were really professional for the first 50 minutes tonight.
That was like Kermit the Frog. Sorry, I needed.
That's what she said.
Yeah,
Ryan's over here doing a Patrick Mahomes celebration.
It was.
Well, I tried to find Travis on the middle.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, collect. All right. Will this team, Ian, add a number 2 wide receiver, or do you think they're happy with Jonnu now as their guy? Not that he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver, just,
I sure hope they do.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the season with Robert Woods as your number 2 wide receiver isn't much better than going into the season with Van Jefferson as your number 2.
Right?
And maybe a tiny bit, but anyone out there who says Calvin Austin's going to be the number 2 receiver, Calvin Austin is a player who, if you scheme him up well, can excel in certain roles, but you have to scheme him up to get open. He's not going to go out there and create for himself.
And he's $170, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's really no one left out there that you could co-sign and
if Calvin Austin starts catching the ball a lot, defenses are going to simply counter that by smacking him at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So right now, just if you look at their wide receiver depth, okay, obviously you got DK, you got Robert Woods, you got CA3, okay. Skronik is your number 5. And likely your special teams demon that we all know and love.
Yes. Which is totally fine.
And you got Roman Wilson.
And Steelers folk hero. Let's just call it that. Because, you know, if we need 4 yards on third down, he's going to get you 5.
That's right. So if they truly did add a number 2 guy, is Robert Woods the one that's gone?
No, you can keep 6 receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, how often has Tomlin done that, though? I don't remember him
times.
keeping. Has he?
Well,
I don't
a
remember
bunch of
keeping
times.
6 that often.
Typically, the reason that they keep a 6 wide receiver, though, is to play teams.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that dude's got to play special teams.
Well, and we know Skoranek, whether he's 5 or 6, he's going to be the special teams.
He's playing
dude.
special teams, which is why he's
Yeah.
going to make the team.
Yeah. Yeah, and which I'm all for. I love the guy. Fun to watch, plays hard, you know, all those things. So I don't know. We'll see as we get there. What the hell happened to Jonnu be there?
Went to take a dump? I don't know.
Oh boy, I
don't
hope not.
The other thing I think that's worth mentioning, though, is of those guys you said, right? Metcalf, Woods, Austin, Skoranek, Wilson.
Yeah.
That's putting a lot of weight on Roman Wilson to
Yeah, it is.
potentially be a contributor this year, especially if one of those top
Fingers
3
crossed.
gets hurt. That
The dude was a 3rd round pick. I mean, if he doesn't do something this year, fuck.
yeah, he's got to put it together. I agree. I'm just saying that there's a lot of Calvin Austin looks like an accomplished wide receiver next to Roman Wilson. So
An
you've got to
accomplished slot, absolutely.
yeah, but you're going to have to get something out of the collective that's not DK Metcalf, right? DK Metcalf can't be your entire passing game. So it can't be DK Metcalf and the tight ends. You have to get something out of the collective of Woods, Austin, and Wilson.
You got to have somebody else on that offense that can pull a safety.
Yeah, and I keep getting this vision of, and we were talking about it in the chat today. Ian, I think you might have said it. You know, I get this vision of DK running his route, and then you got like Muth and Jonnu Smith running those classic curls or little comebacks or something. That's all fine and good. You still have to have a number 2 wide receiver that can get open. I because that only goes for so long, and
actually catch the fucking ball.
Well, that would help.
Yeah.
Catching the ball, always good. Yeah, always good.
Where the hell is Ryan? Is he
I don't know where he went. I was getting primed and ready for Casey Kasem here. Oh,
There
there
he
he
is.
is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
He's
all right.
back.
What'd I miss?
We just talking
we didn't
about
see
Roman Wilson needing to contribute.
Right.
By the way,
are you
who
excited?
I saw recently.
I actually am. I hope that he does well, but like I just don't have high hopes.
Yeah,
and that's
I hope he does
fair.
well too. But
Yeah.
you know, honestly, he's kind of a blank slate. So
totally.
he
It's
really
like Taylor
could.
Swift. Blank slate, a blank space. F.
I wouldn't have known either one. So yeah.
That's not this week's song, but whatever.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we were getting a little tease there. Damn it! I had the other thing on the tip of my tongue, and it's gone.
Casey's ready, but what else do we want to talk about? I mean, I'm here. I'm available.
Right.
Here,
I thought we had.
available.
I'm 3/4 in the
You know, we were
bag.
going to talk about the lack of long-term contracts on this roster.
That's what it was. Damn
Yes.
it! Thank you. Yes.
Well,
and
I can't talk about that, so go ahead. But
Yeah.
that's
so
fine.
Ben and Ian,
Talk about this.
You guys kind of jump in here. What is the motivation behind all of these 1-year short-term deals? Because next year they're going to have another potential shit ton of turnover. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, and this was what I talked about earlier, that I just haven't seen the plan from Omar Khan yet, that they've got a bunch of guys now on short-term contracts that, you know, I went through the roster this week, and there's only a handful of guys kind of at every position that are even signed beyond this season that, you know, and most of those guys are on their rookie deals. That at quarterback, of the guys that aren't on rookie deals after this year, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard's on a rookie contract.
Yep.
Running back, it's only Caleb Johnson. Tight end, it's Freiermuth. Jonnu Smith, maybe, because I think they gave him a 1-year extension and he had 1 year left.
He has
so,
2 years.
2 years.
And then, okay, so Muth, Smith, and Darnell Washington on his rookie deal. Wide receiver, the only one signed after this year are Metcalf and then Roman Wilson on his rookie deal. Offensive line, you've got Jones, Fatanu, McCormick, Spencer Anderson, and Zach Frazier all on rookie contracts. That's it after this year.
Yeah.
Defense, Cam Hayward might be playing his last year. Technically, he's signed for longer. But then you've got Benton, Harmon, Black, and Lee all on rookie deals. Outside linebacker, right. Outside linebacker, assuming Watt's deal gets done, you've got him and Highsmith both on long-term deals, and then Herbig and Sawyer on rookie contracts. Inside linebacker, you do have Queen signed.
Yeah.
They signed that Malik Harrison to a 2-year contract, but he's nothing more than a special teamer to me.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
Peyton Wilson, Carson Bruner, both on rookie contracts. And then in the secondary, you've got JPJ, Trice, Bishop, and Kent on rookie contracts if Kent even makes the team.
Yeah.
Ramsey technically signed beyond this year, but as we said earlier, probably just a 1-year deal. And then Eccles was a 2-year deal. And then at safety, you only have Deshaun Elliott signed beyond this year.
So what does it all mean?
What's it all mean is they've got 12 draft picks and a ton of cap space next year. We're going to be right back in the same spot that this was part, other than DK Metcalf this year, they didn't go out and sign any other guys that could be like anchor players to help them into the future, right? And I know we're not in a position right now to contend. We don't have a quarterback, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But if you look at other teams and what they did like before they got their quarterback, right?
Yeah.
The Chiefs had a pretty solid roster. Alex Smith was a decent quarterback. They were a borderline playoff team anyways.
Yep.
Before they drafted Mahomes and brought him in. Buffalo traded away the pick that became Mahomes. But Buffalo tried to build a roster and then took Josh Allen the next year. So Buffalo tried to build a roster that a QB could come into and succeed. Other teams, like the Chargers, took a quarterback and then tried to build a roster around them, and it's still taken them forever just to like get to that borderline playoff appearance.
Yeah.
Miami took a quarterback and signed a bunch of guys or traded for guys, right? They got Tyreek Hill. They drafted Jalen Waddle. So I think, to me, looking at what other teams have done, it seems like the teams that have had more success are the ones that built their roster and had it ready for a quarterback to step into to succeed. And I don't see that happening with us. We're signing all these guys to these 1-year, 2-year contracts. We're not necessarily building up a solid foundation for a quarterback to be able to step into and succeed. And that's where I'm struggling with, what the vision is for this team.
Are fans in general really? It almost feels like everybody just assumes that we're going to find our quarterback of the future next year. Do you notice that?
That clearly is the aim.
Well, of course it's the aim, but there are way more quarterbacks that have been taken in the first round that have gone on to absolute suck than there are that go on to lead franchises for 10 or 15 years. I just get this feeling that the fan base just keeps saying, oh, well, we'll get our quarterback next year. We'll get our quarterback next year. We don't know. And that could push us back even further. So this plan or whatever it is that Omar Khan is doing, to me, it all comes back down to you got to get the right dude at quarterback. Because if you don't, your plan doesn't mean shit.
Okay. So real quickly regarding the plan, whether or not you get the quarterback first and then build around him, or if you build the team and then get the quarterback, you can do it either way.
Yeah.
You just can't miss.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Bottom line, you just can't miss.
Yep.
And you can give yourself a little more room to miss here and there if you build the team first and then draft the quarterback, but then you can't miss on the quarterback. So the long and the short of this is what I think they're doing this year. You look at all these contracts. They're short-term deals, 1 or 2 years, older players, cheap deals.
Mm-hmm.
They're Band-Aids. They're effectively tryout contracts. If we like you, we'll sign you to a longer-term deal next year. If we don't, you're gone.
Yeah.
But you're serviceable, so we'll utilize you this year. After that, nothing's promised. And we think we can cobble together, a respectable team this year while we're building our roster for the future. And we are preserving our resources, both cash and draft picks, to build for the future. Okay? So the plan is long term. It sucks. It's frustrating to look at, to watch.
But some of us have been here before.
That is undoubtedly the plan.
Yeah.
This is a roster rebuild. They're right in the middle of it right now. This is what it looks like in Pittsburgh. And as
Omar.
No. As Ian pointed out about Kevin leaving the roster a little bit bare because his last handful of drafts sucked. Sorry, Scarps.
He's accepted.
The long and the short of it is when you have that many holes in your roster, you got to sign free agents, which the Steelers don't really like to do. They would prefer to sign their own guys. Unfortunately, when your own guys stink, you got to bring in people to patch those holes, which is why they keep bringing guys in to patch holes short term and trying to make it work short term so that they can build in the future later, blah, blah, blah. The idea is to get back to what they were before, which was a draft and develop team. Will they do it? I don't know. Like I said, you can't miss. And you got to get the quarterback. You have to get the quarterback.
It's all
if you don't have the quarterback, you cannot win in this league. Yes, Brad Johnson has a fucking Super Bowl ring. So does
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer from Baltimore.
Dilfer.
Those are the exceptions, not the rules.
I agree. Yeah.
Those are the 1% chances.
I want to read one thing final, get your thoughts on, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Casey Kasem. But here's what I'm going to read.
He didn't leave Cleveland. He got traded, Ian.
Well,
true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Post Cleveland,
But didn't he get cut by Carol? No, he didn't get cut. He got traded by Carolina too.
He went out to the Rams. Remember?
He went to the Rams.
But that was like a sixth round draft choice. That's when we should have acquired him right there.
Yeah. Yes.
And then he was a free agent when he left the Rams, and we could have signed him, and we didn't.
At that point,
instead we drafted Kenny fucking Pickett.
That turned out well.
Yeah.
Let me read this real quick.
Why sign a player that's won a playoff game
against your team?
By the way, for anybody who's listening to this rambling as we go along, because we've had a few drinks, we didn't explain ourselves.
We've had some drinks.
We're talking about Baker Mayfield.
Right.
The Steelers should have brought in Baker Mayfield years ago and just said, hey, Baker, you want to compete for the job? Because he would have won it.
Yep, he would have. Missed City of Champions. Pirates want to lose. Steelers paint a pretty picture, but haven't won a playoff game since January 2017. Pens haven't been competitive since 66 sold a team. What happened to our standards?
Hater. You fucking hater.
That was a tweet.
Hater.
From Mr. Brett Kiesel. Scarps, was he right?
I mean, is he allowed to talk about the playoff drought, or is that just some lame talking point? I mean, a guy that won it twice, has a beard that only men can wish to have in their lives.
There's that.
Yes, he's right. Pittsburgh is down bad. Is that what the kids say? The Big Three. This is the longest drought that the Big Three in Pittsburgh sports have ever had, where it comes to not winning a playoff game or series. And if you want to get technical, the Pirates actually haven't won a series since 1979, the last time they won the World Series. So it's a super, super long streak. I do want to say this.
Yeah.
I love Brett Kiesel. He was amazing to work with, a great human being. I'm a little surprised that he said that about the Steelers.
Okay.
And
I was surprised too. But what I'm
a
asking is, did you like it or did you not?
Oh, I fucking love it. And
was it fair? And it was fair.
And it was
Yeah.
fair. And it was fair. And I think he brought all Pittsburgh sports into the equation to take a little bit of heat off himself. Because if he just said the Steelers, I mean, shit, there have been times when Rocky Blyers criticized the Steelers and people are like, who the fuck's Rocky Blyer? Like, whatever, you know? And it's like you need to.
Yeah, he only won 4 rings. Fuck that
yes,
guy.
You need to tread lightly because you know I don't know if you know this, but everybody on Steelers Twitter are the experts on everything. But absolutely love the fact that Kiesel said that, and he's spot on. And like I talked about earlier, all the fans are excited about these new additions, but they're not Steelers.
Not
and
yet.
until they're not yet.
Not
and
yet.
Maybe they do
Hopefully
something
they will
this
be,
year.
right?
And it
Correct.
does matter. It does
Correct.
matter.
Maybe they do something this year where they are Steelers, but until that time, they're not.
Yeah.
Kiesel's a Steeler through and through.
Oh yeah.
I read that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just going to say I read that as a guy who, as a former player, is passionate about the community that he lives in, the team that he played for, the teams that he cheered for, because he was commonly known to be at Penn's games and Pirates games, and I think his frustration level is what many fans feel. So I loved it. I have no problem with him doing it. Ian, you wanted to make a final point before we got to Mr. Casey Kasem tonight.
Oh, yeah, I did. But on Kiesel's point too, I do want to say I think the Steelers and Penguins both
Ian's had some drinks. He just said Penguins.
Almost had similar trajectories. All right, I'll throw a bone to you all. Nevertheless.
Drink, everyone.
Drink!
Nevertheless.
Drink!
That was intentional, though. I did that just for you guys. But the Steelers and Penguins both did somewhat similar things in that the Penguins have held on to their core of Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and tried to do essentially a soft rebuild around them. The problem was one of the most important positions in hockey, which is the goaltender, the guy that stops the puck from going in the net. They extended a guy with a 4 or 5 year contract who sucked ass and then couldn't get out of that contract. And we're like, well, we're stuck with this guy in goal. We'll just try and sign some more other guys. And it didn't work. And yeah, they're in a bad spot now with, an aging core of superstars that just they haven't been able to do anything with. The Steelers similarly, had an aging core of stars with Roethlisberger, some of the other guys. And now we've even seen it with Cam Hayward, TJ Watt are also an aging core of stars, and they're filling gaps, but haven't been able to figure out the most important position, which is quarterback. So, but that said, also, there were some ownership changes. Kiesel was right. The Liverpool Sports Group or Fenway Sports Group, sorry, they also own Liverpool. Fenway Sports Group bought out the Penguins from Mario Lemieux and are running it with their corporate interests in mind. The Steelers have not had the same direction since Dan Rooney died, rest in peace, but they just have seemed kind of rudderless since Art took over, and it's just the world we're living in right now. So that's my point there on Kiesel's tweet.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say about this trade, I would be remiss if I did not mention that Jalen Ramsey has won more playoff games in Heinz Field or in Pittsburgh than TJ Watt has his entire career.
I think we all need to drink when Ian says remiss.
Yeah, remiss, nevertheless.
Right.
Nevertheless, or remiss.
Remiss, I take a piss.
Or maybe
so I hope that Casey wasn't going to mention
if he
that.
ever says penultimate or penultimate or
why does Steeler girl wait till the very end to jump in? Jump by earlier. Hello.
Hi, Steeler girl.
Casey Kasem, are you loaded and ready to roll?
Loaded. I'm dead. Casey
Drink faster.
Casey is coast to coast. American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was July 1st, 1970. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, you say it's your birthday. It's America's birthday too, yeah? They say it's your birthday. We're going to have a good time. I'm glad it's your birthday, American Top 40. Happy birthday to you. Casey, that's, of course, a parody of the Beatles' Birthday, which is one of my favorite tunes off of the Beatles, which you would know as the White Album. On this July 4th, American Top 40 debuted 55 years ago. Casey, in all seriousness, congrats on the 55th anniversary of American Top 40, and thanks for always opening and reading my letters, despite being dead since 2014. Speaking of 55 years, that's the average age of the Steelers defense. Matter of fact, it's the average age of the entire team. Casey, I haven't seen this many fossils since I took my kids to the Natural History Museum. Half this team is eligible for the senior discount at the movies. If it was still during COVID, they'd get to shop an hour before the store opens because they'd be considered the most vulnerable. They're so old, they've probably handled asbestos, and as we all know, they may be entitled to compensation due to a long battle with mesothelioma. Mesothelioma? More like mesothelioma. Oh my God, the glazing of Omar Khan is out of control. I haven't seen someone get anointed this quickly since God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. That is Acts 10:38, which is way past the Steelers players' bedtime. 100 years from now, historians are going to study the glazing arc of Omar Khan. His teams are 29-22 overall, with no postseason wins and no division titles in 3 seasons. Yet Yinzers think he's the greatest because he makes moves. He's the con artist. Casey, I have nothing against Omar. As I've said repeatedly, it's too early to judge what he's done. However, the perception of him is that he's somehow better than Kevin Colbert. I keep hearing, these aren't your daddy's Steelers. Well, my daddy's Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. And my Steelers won 2 Super Bowls. You youngster Steelers haven't won shit. A note to parents, teach your children. Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars and keep your radio tuned right where it is. Up 3 spots to number 30 this week. Here's Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young with Teach Your Children.
Another rousing edition. You know, I had to say that our viewers were hovering right around 20, 22 tonight. And then all of a sudden it bumped to 33 right around the time Casey Kasem started. So I wonder what we must have just a huge fan base for Casey Kasem.
They know.
They know, right? They know when to tune in. Fantastic.
From beyond the grave.
Yeah. Oh, man. Hey, hope everybody has a very great, happy, fun, and safe 4th of July as you celebrate the birth of America.
Don't Jason Pierre-Paul yourselves.
Yeah, what's that?
I said,
Yeah, that's right. Please come back next week with all of your digits. That would be most lovely.
Yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean, come on, man.
Don't like hold M80s in your hands.
Don't be that
kids.
guy,
Yeah,
please.
Oddly enough, he had a really good career after he blew off half his fingers.
He did.
Just
He
saying.
did.
JPP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, check us out, steelcityblitz.com. Check out the store, dc4lcustomtees.com. Just click on that Steel City Blitz to get some swag, as the kids say. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Thanks to DEK Roofing Incorporated, of course. Thanks to Frank Walker Law and Variety Sports Network as well. Have a wonderful 4th, and we'll see you next week. And, hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.